Okay, Hector, let's just make sure we're on the same page here. We report the minimum and avoid your mess. You made a strong impression. You'd have asked us to do this anyway. You saw how he was. Maybe you're right. At least with your offer, it sounds like we're trying to be proper about this. Giving a full report to the authorities or something. Well, enough. We absolutely cannot bring up the half-orcs in that house. Or any in general. Especially not Brinya. We can't have him reinvigorated. The nice an issue, too. He can't learn our theory. We'll keep it about the injuries. If he makes small talk, avoid his kids and their childhood. Anything to avoid malaria. That's the most important item to keep out. We may be able to smooth over some things, but not his daughter, who skipped town for an outsider half-orc. We may be jailed. He'd definitely end our investigation and throw away our results. Okay. I think that's it. Okay. I'm ready. It's like the open performance night, the Roaring Stallion. Don't remind me. Wasn't she there with Brinya? Yes, she locked out. I like to be posted outside. We'll be fine. Just make your tea especially calming. Can do. I hear we're to have tea. Did Jagrin say that? He was out of sorts when he returned. Said he hadn't come at chamomile in years. His uses limes and something I don't remember. Jam liked it enough to get the recipe. Then we're in for a real treat. It's just her opinion. Jam has quite the palate and hasn't changed her menu in a decade. She's not one to take on other people's ideas. Huh. She's been so easygoing with Claire. Good. I was worried you may skip out. I wouldn't miss a chance to set you straight. Huh. You've got guts. You'll need them. Where's the other one? Tea. His special blend, even pressed jam. Oh, I'll set my expectations high. It's fairly quick once the water boils. I've ordered a pot to be kept heated just for him. Then he should be out any minute. What do you think of her now? We came for history and got a good bit. Jam gave us a briefing on our first day. How much? There's quite a bit of history to our town. Oh? The Horde line, last war orcs. I imagine she covered this much. They kept pushing back the line until Trunau was trapped. But your ancestors defended their home, even forged the Hope Night ceremony. That's about all we know. The hill we're on, what is its name? Geography is not our specialty. You should add it to your priorities. It's called Blood March Hill. Do you know why? Centuries of raids. One would think so, but no. Trunau was established here due to its history. This is where a giant chieftain attempted to push back the Horde line yet further, but was repelled. He died with dozens of impaled spears and swords. That was proof that this hill was strategically advantageous. Incredible. And now you have walls, towers, defenses. Have any raids gotten close? Unfortunately, they have broken through the lower level, but this hill is always held firm. Did his tribe fall as well? I believe stories tell of them disbanding with their leader dead. Kill the general, root the army. I'll make a note of this later. We do have other pressing business other than a history lesson. Then, shall we? I'll start with the most pressing point. Roderick did not kill himself. He was drugged. I found a half-eaten biscuit in his room. It was poisoned. Tiari detected it. I checked and found diluted oil of taggart. Diluted? How? Usually it's done with another liquid like water. Well, yes. It was expertly done, still strong enough to knock a man out. The duration was maybe 30 minutes, but it doesn't take long to kill an unconscious man. Then he wanted his passing to be easier, clearly. But he certainly couldn't have cut himself. The blood wasn't in the right places. Oh, noticed something, did you? The blood was only around the wrists, nothing across his belly, legs, floor. If you cut yourself, you need the bleeding wrist to move over to the other one. There's no sign of that. With all your years seeing the hook knife in use, surely you understand this. You may be right. This scene is akin to someone saved from an orc by a friend, rather than by himself. He was murdered, no question. Unless he was assisted. How can you? There's more, of course. No one of Trunau would murder a defender, unless this person wasn't of Trunau. I loved him. I've heard of such things happening from time to time. He was that kind of man. I know he wouldn't do himself in, and certainly wouldn't get someone else involved. Don't you agree? You're right. He wouldn't. Then who did this? An outsider? We're still investigating that, but you're not far off our suspicions. Answer the question. To tell this, we'll go into some other details of that night, such as when it happened. It was a long night. How can you pin down the exact time? No one knew Roderick's death until morning. While Chan was still in the kitchen, she heard steps above and on the stairs. She also heard a door creaking twice. So there's only one door that creaks. Roderick's. And she saw no one on the stairs. In fact, she heard the steps stop about halfway down, but no one was there. We believe someone was under the effects of invisibility. After doing the deed, they ensured none would see them exit. There's no sign of struggle, as we've described the locations of the blood, plus, Jam didn't hear anything of the sort. He was out when the person slit his wrists. The diluted oil would have taken 30, maybe 60 minutes to kick in, around the time of the first creak. The creaks were a few minutes apart, enough time to commit murder. The door was also unlocked when Jam found him. There were no signs of picking. He'd have locked it. Everyone in town does. He must have gone under before he could. You seem to have done a fair bit of investigation. Perhaps it was a bit premature labeling his death a suicide, presuming you can explain one thing. I left it slide earlier to allow you a smidgen of a chance. But it is quite a troublesome problem. Fire away. You say my son ate a poisoned biscuit. Where did he get it? It was cooked for him. Started by Cham, finished by someone else. What? She was cooking his dinner when a commotion came up with some of the residents. Apparently one of them spilled some ink on some papers. He denies it, but the others went after him. Cham had to break it up. Afterwards, she returned to the kitchen to find his meal finished. She figured a good Samaritan had done it. So the culprit was at the inn at the time. Convenient, wouldn't you say? The culprit was, but it wasn't convenient. This was planned. The spilling of the ink was but a distraction. There was a guest at the bar, but was gone by the time the fighting was over. We believe she finished the meal, lacing it with the oil. You can connect her directly. Was there a hair in his potatoes? No, but Cham cleans regularly. The Ramble house is spotless. What he means is anything found in a room must have been left that day or was from a current occupant. You found something else in his room? No, but when we checked this woman's, we found a snake scale and a long brown hair. And what does this tell us? She appeared to be graying a lot. This was the hair of a young woman. A disguise. We saw her earlier that day too, in the same getup. She wasn't dressing for a romantic tryst. Hair, likely some face paint to cover her green. I saw through everything. It was a little makeup, fake hair, mostly she just relied on her cloak. A minimum effort by this white, human woman. Continue. She had gone up after the fighting and cooking the meal. She must have used the room. Cham was even paid extra to not put a name in the registry. That's not that uncommon. She was never seen to leave. The bed wasn't used at all either. She must be who Cham heard on the stairs. This is the only explanation. So, an outsider plotted a murder. How did she know Cham was cooking for Roderick? Maybe she asked around for his routine. We don't know the answer to that one. Regardless of how she knew, she did poison it. Why would an outsider want my son dead? Well, this was an attack on Trunau as a whole. A defender killing himself. It's already caused quite a stir. And paranoia. We think this was a disgruntled former resident, someone who had a vendetta against the town. She could have gone for any defender. Why Roderick? Because he was a defender. Well then, where is she? We're still looking. There are a few more leads to follow, but she is the prime suspect. Anything else? That's our report. Then I'll get to some of my questions. We'll answer whatever you ask. Almost overheard you talking about the hope knife that killed him, that it was Brinya's. She was heartbroken, nothing more. She hadn't seen Roderick since the night of the fight, the night before the hope knife ceremony, as I'm sure you're well aware. I thought we cleared this up. Then what is it about his hope knife? We talked about an investigation at the bar with Cham. The knife was at the end of the conversation. I suppose he heard a tidbit and misunderstood. Misunderstood what? It was, in fact, the murder weapon. However, it wasn't Brinya who did this. Her knife is still around her neck, as I'm sure you saw earlier today. The lovers exchanged their knives in Trunau, but the knife that killed Roderick was on him, not Brinya. Brinya didn't sneak in, avoid Cham's sharp senses, enter Roderick's room, slash his wrists, and then leave using a potion of invisibility she can't afford. Entering and leaving certainly not impossible for her, under the circumstances. Still, it's her knife. With all due respect, sir, whether or not she was the owner of the knife plays no part in this crime. Someone used the knife about his neck. That is certain. We never said whose knife it was, but regardless of the owner, the hand to use the knife was not Brinya's. Well, Master asserted it was hers because of the lover's tradition. Which is technically true, but what does that have to do with this? How was Brinya automatically the killer then? Because it was hers. I see. He misunderstood. He thought you meant that Brinya used Roderick's knife, which she wears, to kill him. The knife about Roderick's neck was the weapon. That is true without a doubt. But we've proven twice now that it wasn't Brinya who used it. Continue. The knife itself had dried blood and bits of flesh embedded. Tiari also saw this. Again with Tiari. We can leave her out of this. She's been a big help. Those priestesses only care about Lastwall. They may serve Lastwall's interests, but they do the same for Trunau. During the raids, they heal the injured and help. It's their lives too. Iomedae is dedicated to justice. Tiari is a priestess of some power. Their justice. Good justice. Iomedae does turn out a lot of paladins. Tiari helped us when she didn't need to. In fact, she didn't at first. She wasn't warm to us at first. We had to prove ourselves, otherwise she was going to tell Curse and not us. Impeding an investigation. She wasn't involved in it. Curse didn't tell her anything. As he shouldn't have. So she shouldn't have involved herself? She He was ruled at suicide immediately. Who did that? She looked at the knife and body before we arrived. As we looked him over, she was checking our progress against her own. Tiari was assessing us, so that since she wasn't involved in this, it wouldn't be proper to say anything about right. So instead, she left it to us. If we failed, she would tell Curse on her own. She said she wasn't comfortable with the lack of justice for Roderick's name to be labeled as suicide on a clear murder. Then just one more thing. Go for it. I heard Hector was hanging outside Sarah Morninghawk's shop for some time, nursing a hand injury. A misunderstanding. He said something unadvised and paid the price. It's a minor detail. We've since passed this. He hit on her. I went in and cleared up the problem. I told her that Hector was lovesick. You didn't have to. You were pretty disheartened when Worry carried Helga to the prom. We're getting off topic. We finished our first day's investigation, but have much more left. Would these be the leads you mentioned earlier? What are they? We have a few loose ends. What were you about to say? We didn't want to say this. We're just not sure yet. You may speak freely here. We believe this woman had an accomplice, an ally in town. We are to follow him tomorrow. No need. We'll bring him in for questioning, like you were to Brinya. This is too public. We don't know if this person is involved yet. We're going to detail him and check. Then some defenders who draw attention. If he's guilty, he'll be on guard. We don't know if there are more people. And so far, everyone just thinks we're writing a book. If defenders are with us, you're following us, you'll lose your chance. We have to do this on our own. This may end up becoming dangerous. Someone willing to kill a defender, even as an accomplice. Do you know what you're getting into? We're the only ones who can do this. Anyone else will draw suspicion. I will not let his murderer go unpunished. I'm giving him in check. You can trust us. Then I'll say this. You've been phrasing your responses carefully. And you know why my son was killed but won't tell me. Normally, I'd have this information extracted. However, your dedication is strong, intentions pure, and abilities sound. Your thorough investigation stands for itself. I will not pry into your work further, for now. The true meaning behind his death I will know by the end of this. You hear me? Yes, sir. Once we're certain. No use burning houses just yet. I'll leave the rest to you. The defender shall lend you aid, should you ask. As for the culprit, bring him alive. Though, I'll understand if he gives you little choice. That was the plan. Thank you, sir. I'll have to adjust for a non-lethal approach, but I will heed your request. You're a good man, Hector. This meeting is adjourned, and Cliff, keep working on that tea. Just iron out the details with you. I can. I promise it will be better next time. Crack of dawn. We don't know when Ductani heads out. Earlier, Sarah has something for us. Remember? Then I'll sleep in and beat you later. Fine. With that spell, don't you get enough rest? It puts me out quickly, but I still need the proper time. Would it kill you to skip 30 minutes? That's a half-hour less beauty sleep for my figure. Uh-huh. Before you head in, I need to speak with you. Just Cliff. That last batch probably gave her the runs. Then she'd be yelling. You can never read people. Just a veil to your eyes before Cham's grand surprise.